The Big Issue. Breaking down the issues that matter.
Hello there, welcome to another edition of the program, The Big Issue, your current affairs program on leadership television. My name is Winifred Ugbebo, your host on the program. And as you can see, I have my guest in the studio. He is a political economist. He is Olamilekon Adefolarin. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Yes.
A very good evening to all our viewers out there.
Yes, on today's The Big Issue, we are looking at Nigeria at 64. Has anything changed so far? Has anything? Yesterday, October 1st, Nigeria celebrated 64 years of independence. And of course, it was a celebration that was marked low-key, according to President Bola Tinubu, which incidentally, yesterday was also gracing 1.5 years since inauguration as President of Federal Republic of Nigeria. Yesterday also, we had this Fearless in October protest that took place yesterday, though it was not as successful as the End Hunger, #End Bad Governance protest. These also were what dovetailed yesterday in celebration of Nigeria's 64 years anniversary. So on this program today, we are looking at 64 years. To be a 64 years old is actually a grown-up adult.
Exactly.
You know, like what somebody said, I think a guest also said earlier, that Nigeria's best years are now in the past. Do you share that sentiment?
I have to, but it's on a mixed level, in the sense that the best years of Nigerians will be regarded at the point of our independence, not until the military intervention into our politics, and then drag the political and economic development of Nigeria until 1999, when they now relinquish power to the civilians. And early part of when they relinquish power to the civilians, that means between 1999 and 2003, we also had the best year of Nigeria. But thereafter, from 2005, 2007 to date, we always have it in a reverse form. So that's how I see the best years of Nigeria being the past, and the bad period of Nigeria, which we have experienced, particularly on the economic side, as well as the political development of Nigeria, as expressed by majority of Nigeria, in the sense that democracy that were embraced, how far has democracy bring development to Nigeria? So there's this discussion around democracy and development. In our own case, it has always been the issue of election every 4 years, which many people think or thought that with that, the development can come. But we have missed it, because with the 4 years election coming to the period, development have been eluded because politicians have not taken advantage of what democracy offers for development in Nigeria.
Thank you so much. Now, talking about policies, each successive government have always embraced their different policies, and in this present administration, many are saying that he's towing the line of the Brentwood financial institutions, talking about IMF, World Bank, which has kind of devalued currencies and contributed to the economic hardship Nigerians are facing right now.
A very fact about that statement, and very correct also, because over the years, I think one of the major mistake that we made was that when we embraced democracy in 1999, we also accepted a neoliberal policy of economy, which also usher in whereby government will answer for the business environment. Governments will go into privatization and commercialization of the commanding height of the economy at the industrialization of Nigeria, and hand it over to the private sector. And that's what has become one of the biggest mistakes that were made so far in this democratic journey that we engage ourselves. But on the other hand, for us to also understand that in as much as most African countries, which Nigeria also followed their footsteps, trying to democratize the system and ensuring that democracy brings the dividends of development, which has been missing also, because the leaders who have had over the years since 1999 are visionless leaders. Leaders that doesn't think forward. No, they even though they are thinking outside the box, but the thinking outside the box is just for primitive accumulation of wealth to themselves and to their friends and associates. They are not thinking in large proportion for the generality of Nigerians, in the sense that to take the bottom of the poor along with them. And this goes to the issue of equality in the distribution of resources of the state. Because if we check the distribution of resources in Nigeria, it has been one-sided. The elite and a part of the middle class have been the one enjoying the resources of the country, where the larger portion of the population have been left out of the calculation of distribution of resources in Nigeria.
All right, with what you just said, and that's what one of the stakeholders and letter statements said, that in this current administration, we've seen a gradual elimination of the middle class. And one begins to wonder, how did we arrive here?
Definitely, how we arrive here is based on the policy of the government. What choice of policy are they making, and how are they implementing the policy choice they are also making? particularly for economies like us. Look at the policy economies of the government. So far, so good. We know in the past years, Nigerians has only enjoyed subsidy in every facet of the economy, from electricity to fuel subsidy to housing to road construction and to other, including agriculture. Government Nigerians have always enjoyed subsidy, but of recently, government is pulling its hand away from subsidy. Electricity is there; they are pulling their hands off. Fuel subsidy, they are pulling that. Even housing development, even agriculture, although agriculture they are still putting more effort. But these are the key things that Nigerians normally enjoy from government, because if you look at the basic things or basic necessity of Nigerians, what they really care for is basically, which I have understood, is food. Accessible food and affordable food. But that has been lacking because government pulled out of food production. Then secondly, it has to do with energy resources, energy generation, which is electricity. Government is also pulling out in terms of funding. Then you can also talk about education. Government is also pulling out of education. But by the time you look at the three areas I've mentioned, you see that those are the basic things that Nigerians really want. And for now, it is Nigerians that are catering for themselves to get those things. High cost of school, high cost of transportation, high cost of food, as well as high cost of energy. Most homes in Nigeria don't get 24 hours electricity. Highest you can get is 812 or in intermediate electricity supply, maybe 4 hours, 3 hours, and that. So we must understand that Nigerians have missed, major Nigerians, the poor Nigerians have missed out in resources of the state or enjoying resources of the state over 64 years. Although we can say at the beginning of the independence year, it was okay. Although people can also argue that we are not that much in terms of population. Highest we were when we got the independence was 54 million, but now we are over 200 million. So the pressure of that 200 million or 200 plus million on the resources could be much. But we also know that in as much as that pressure is much, that even the decision has been taken out of calculation of the poor, and that's why you can see more Nigerians are being pushed into poverty. Just like what Bank said last week about the range of Nigerians, about 42 million of them have been pushed into poverty over the years, just within 1 year of this current administration. But we are not looking at it because the administration alone. We are looking at least critically from 1999 to date.
Okay. Now also, we talked about the mainstay of Nigeria's economy, which is oil. Now, isn't it ironic that since 9 years now, Nigeria's 4 refineries have not refined any crude? And this is a nation that is mono-dependent. Like I saw some Nigerians, some Nigerians are so creative that Nigeria does not make sense. That was what the graffiti said. And it went on to say that how can somebody leave his 4 wives, talking about Nigeria's refineries, and chasing after a side chick? And the side chick in this instance is Dangote, to become a marketer, an oil marketer to Dangote refinery. It doesn't really make sense.
Actually, it doesn't really make sense. But we also need to look at the policy of the government. Policy economy of the government. 2
terms of Buhari's administration, the refinery did not refine, Nigeria's refinery did not refine a single crude.
And we can even go far back to 1999 when Obasanjo came in.
But those ones, they were still refining.
They were refining. Just one of them was refining, and it was not refining to the capacity that it was expected.
But at least they were still refining,
bringing out PMS for Nigeria. But these challenges will go back to that period, because that was the period that the foundation of ensuring that those before refineries actually are maintained through the turnaround maintenance, but it never happened. And it was that period that the neoliberal policy of government answering off from businesses, commanding height of in Nigeria.
But it wasn't as widely felt like now.
It is because
then during we still look back at Jonathan, Goodluck Jonathan's years, where we were still buying fuel for less than 100 naira.
Exactly, but the issue also goes back to now we are now concentrating on oil, and being an international commodity and being an international trade engagement. So the price dictation of international price mechanism also affects it. At that period that we are talking, nobody talk about crude oil being sold at $80. Within that period, crude oil was just $20, $30. But now crude oil is between 80, 100. They're even projecting 150.
Yes, but presently it went up now because of what is happening in the Middle East.
Exactly. And you could also remember during Jonathan period, the highest they could sell crude oil was $60. You could also remember that our budget parameter for crude oil production and crude oil price was between $30 to $40. But now they are projecting a budget parameter for crude oil sales to $80. You can see that things have changed as a result of the international dimension of this particular product. So it has also affected the pressure and the demand for that product. So there is a difference, and there is what we need to look at is the connection and the understanding of what is really happening as a result of what the government of Nigeria has failed to do to tackle how government can really take care of these businesses. particularly refineries. And I rightly established that it is because government embraced the policy that said government should not participate in this line of business anymore, and it's over to private investors. So the graphic illustration that I made, that NNPC, which has 4 wives, is now going after chick side. What it means is that side chick. The thing is that in the global economic world, apart from countries like Saudi that have understood that no, we don't have to answer this particular sector of the economy to private individual, we must participate. But in our own climate, we have people who believe that government in Nigeria doesn't know how to do business, so they should leave it for business people. I think you must have heard in recent time that they are saying that the foreign finance should even be sold off or should hand over to private investors. So what I'm trying to establish here is that the policy economy that we made was the choice that is making the government to be a little bit lackadaisical in ensuring that the refinery works. And we have a lot of stooges, a lot of individuals call themselves expert economists who have worked in international businesses, who also believe that government doesn't have a role to play in the oil and gas sector. You ask me, why is it that the PIA, which called for the regulation of the oil and gas sector, specifically put it as one of the clause that the regulation must be that government must not participate in this business of economy of oil and gas? Why? Meanwhile, the Saudi Arabia that we molded the NNPC, the Brazilian oil company, the Russian company, their government is still participating. Their government still owns a high stake in the oil and gas company. Why is it that our own, we must not participate? The government must not owe anything. So it just falls back to the lackadaisical attitude of the government and people who advise this government on this particular angle. How we that we have a government that listening more to homegrown market economy, that we say that government must participate in every stage of the oil and gas. Nobody will talking about the refinery is not working. When Obasanjo put it up for sale, you will see the way people will rush to go and buy it.
And we now saw when Yaradua, late Yaradua,
now reverse it
and now reverse it.
You can see so the thing we need to establish here and make people to understand that government need to participate in every form of business that Nigerian, although either Nigerians or foreigners are coming to do, either in the banking, either in insurance, government must have. Because when government participates in those businesses, it will safeguard the poor having access to those commodity. Like in oil and gas now, if the foreign refineries are working, what concerns Nigerians with Dangote? Dangote will be exporting his PMS anyway, but the NNPC will be supplying local market. Even if it's not enough, the Dangote can now bring. The that market forces they are talking about can now work, although the market forces is still all about fixing prices. You get it? So we must understand. So for me, it's all about government failure to do business as expected.
Right. Thank you so much. We are going on a break. When we come back, we are going to be looking at other sectors as well as Nigeria marks 64 years of age. Don't go away. Stay tuned.
Leadership TV for God and country.
Be part of our brand. Leadership for God and country.
As you welcome back, the program is the big issue, reaching you on Leadership Television. My name is Winifred Ugbebo, your host on the program, and of course we also have a leadership analyst also joining us, and he is Bode Badebo, the online editor of Leadership Media Group. Bode, welcome.
Thank you, Winifred. Good evening. Happy Independence.
Olamilekan Adefolari. Thank you so much once again. Bode, you're welcome to the program. We'll be looking at Nigeria at 64. Has anything changed so far? And in the first half of the program, we're talking about Nigeria's mainstay, which is oil, while Nigeria is now becoming a sole marketer to Dangote refinery, whereas its 4 refineries are still lying comatose. However, we want to be looking at other sectors of the economy. Talking about, recently before Nigeria, just this week, when Nigeria marked 64 years, President Tinubu said he was going to change, rejig his cabinet? Was it just a mere talk?
I think the government was serious about it, but the president
Even
was
though it's
serious.
just 1.5 year, like I mentioned earlier, what impact has these ministers really made in the economy?
You know, when we also had this discussion last week, I said there are ministries that you can feel their impact directly. There are ministries that cannot feel their impact
Yes,
directly. Talk
they're
about
not
works,
tangible.
talk about housing, talk about finance, talk about what do you call it, health, talk about education. People can hear what they are saying or see what they are doing. But other ministries are also existing that you cannot even see what they are doing, you cannot even feel what they are doing. I think those ones, we need to look at those ones and also look at this one that we haven't mentioned. But on a general note, it is also politics, because it is just an home calling for the political party in power to see how to also fix their second half. Because when you are changing ministers, it means that you are bringing your second team on board. Maybe the second team on board could also add value to what the government is doing, but I doubt that could be experience going by what the government is doing at this
Hello,
point.
but I want to hear your Nigeria at 64. Has anything changed so far?
After a lot have changed, you agree with me that this is not the same Nigeria the British colonialists handed over to our leaders in 1960. So a lot have changed, and change is of two dimensions. It's either positive or negative. So a lot have changed economically, socially, even in demography. Demographically, the population of Nigeria as at the time of independence in 1960 is not the same population number we have today. And of course, the leadership template given to us in 1960 is not the same leadership template we are using today. So it's left for us now look at the impacts of these changes. Of course, a lot have changed, both positively and negatively. But the question is, are we where we are supposed to be? The answer certainly is no. We are not where we desire to be, even though our leaders will keep telling us it's a journey and one day we hope to be there. But we can only pray that we hope to be alive to be there when that time comes. So a lot have changed, both positively and negatively.
Like during the first segment of the program, I was just telling my guest Olamilekan that many Nigerians are of the opinion that Nigerians' best years were actually in the past. Do you agree with that thought?
Come again, Winifred. There are a lot of Nigerians that what?
Best years were actually in the past.
Okay, I don't know what's happening to the network. I didn't hear that very well. I had Nigerians, but I didn't hear what you said they are.
Opinion. Let me recount my. Let me say, many Nigerians are of the opinion that Nigeria's best years were actually in the past. Do you agree with that view?
Well, it depends on the way you are looking at it. I don't quite agree, and to some extent, the guests in the studio could also be right.
What is the way forward? What is the way forward? Because we are just into about 1.5 year of this present administration, and the Nigerians are protesting hardship and hunger in the land. What should be done? Perhaps many people are blaming it on the policy of the present administration. In your view, what could have been done to avert this situation right now?
Well, we all know what should be done, but we are not ready to do it. We lack the political will to do it. The only thing this country is missing for now is good governance. The moment we have good governance in place, I can tell you everything will turn around for good. Everything will turn around for good. Winifred, yesterday I was in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, and I saw what I've never seen before, at the Bola International Airport in Addis Ababa. And it shows that Nigeria has a lot to learn from most of these African countries, even though we claim to be the giant of Africa. Infrastructure-wise, everything-wise, Ethiopia is ahead of Nigeria. Then I am in the Qatar as we speak. If you are looking for organization, if you are looking for good governance, if you are looking for sanity, if you are looking for orderliness, you can find it in this country called Qatar. So, and when I asked around in the last 24 hours, they told me It's about good governance. They just decide to follow the rule of law. They decide to govern according to the dictates of their law, and every citizen of the country is happy for it. In fact, I was shocked to discover that in Qatar, you have over 3 million people, but migrants, settlers are more than the citizens. People are coming to work because there are opportunities here. So just good governance is what we are lacking in Nigeria. The moment we have a good governance template in place, everything will turn around for good, economically, political wise, everything, socially, everything will turn around for good. But there must be good governance with the rule of law in place.
All right. Now, talking about good governance, and also to you, Olamilekan, many also are of the opinion that the electoral umpire has not helped matters, because when you have good leaders, people that actually voted for in place, they will provide dividends of democracy.
I think for me, it goes beyond electoral umpire conducting election, because you can even conduct the best of election, you can even bring the best of individuals, just like what they said about good governance. Good governance is what I earlier pointed out. Resource distribution of the state, equally distribution of resources. That's what good governance is. Summary of good governance, like is in Qatar. Now the government of Qatar take care of their citizens. They provide water, they provide education, they provide electricity, they provide security, they provide subsidy. That is the essence of good governance. Then they ensure that those good governance or these factors I mentioned are tied to the law, that no matter who comes in or go out in government, it continue to maintain that.
Okay, you are canvassing the strong institutions, because they said canvass strong institutions, and that
it is strong institutions that ensure good governance is sustained. Yeah. Because if you don't have institutions that are better to manage good governance, there's no way good governance will be sustained. And that strong institution will work according to the legal framework. Just like you rightly mentioned, the rule of law, that if the law say government must sustain subsidy, government must provide light, government must provide this, government must provide that, government must be at the forefront of food production, that is good governance. So what will sustain that good governance is the law, as you rightly pointed out. And I said that in all of these things, it is tied to what? The resources of the state. Because to get good governance to be maintained, you need resources. What is government doing with the money they are getting from revenue? What is government doing with money raised from resource they are selling? Either crude, either land, either water, either sand. So that must be put in place. So when the resource distribution is lacking, when it is not done equally.
Why are we lacking good governance? Why are we lacking good governance? Because both stressed on having good governance in place. So why is Nigeria not having good governance?
I think what is there, maybe it could start.
Yeah, because we have bad leaders. Because we have bad leaders cannot beget good governance. So when we get good leaders, then they will naturally or automatically beget good governance. And why are we here? Because our leadership recruitment process is faulty. We are electing people to position of authority based on some sentiment and mundane reasons. We end up electing mediocres who don't even know their left from right. And if you go to serious countries, Winifred, you will see the difference. So we are lacking in good governance because we are having bad leadership at all levels, whether local governments, whether the states, whether at the center. And again, to be fair to ourselves, even at the family unit in our various homes, Winifred, the leadership is faulty. And that is why the society is having issues with leadership recruitment process. So if the family unit can get it right, the society will get it right, the country will ultimately get it right.
Way forward, Nigeria 64. What is the way forward?
Well, I said it earlier. Yes, I have said it earlier. The way forward, we keep lamenting year in, year out. 64 years is no mean feat. 64 years. Even a human being at 64, that person is a grandfather already. Is old enough to be anything. He's a grandfather. So 64 years is no mean feat. In fact, there are countries around the world who gained political independence less than 50 years ago. But as we speak today, they are well-developed nations because they started on a right footing, good trajectory, and they have sustained that to make sure that their country is taken to the higher pedestal. But for Nigerians, we keep lamenting. Oh, next year, when Nigeria will be celebrating 65, we still come back to this studio and be saying, what way forward? Is that what we want to continue to do? We must draw a line. We must be resolute. We must draw a line that enough is enough. We are ready to good for ourselves so that our country will change for the better. And everything is actually revolved around good governance, good leadership, and good citizenship. You and I must also be good Nigerians so that we don't get to see what we saw in the Edo governorship election last 2 weeks, where votes were traded openly and policemen were looking the other way. Very, very unfortunate. Nobody can build a nation like that.
It is very, very unfortunate. Now, what are your thoughts too?
For me, the way forward is already here with us. Determination of the leaders, whereby we can have leaders who have the mind, who are patriotic enough to say, we are going to be selfless. We are going to commit class suicide. What I mean class suicide, I mean leaders who will go into governor position, president position, and forget about primitive accumulation. Because one of the things that is affecting all this Nigeria today is called primitive accumulation by our leaders. Yes. Imagine someone that was just appointed DG or MD. The first thing that will come to his mind, how is going to accumulate? So that when he's out there, he can also live in luxury life. Those are the things, because when we don't have people who are coming on board to commit class suicide, we are going to come on board and say, okay, for this particular position I'm holding, I want to live a selfless life. That will not happen. But when we have such people come into position of authority, then we can have a better society for ourselves. And as rightly pointed out, not just leaders alone, including citizens, because it is from the citizenship or citizenry you get the leaders that will come. When the citizens are not good, and it's rightly pointed about the family unit. When the family too is also having issues, definitely the citizens also have issues. Then leadership will also have issues. So we are pointing that for me the solution is here. But how are we going to ensure that we maintain status quo in a way that resource distribution must be taken care of? Because when we don't distribute the resources evenly or equally, then there will be challenges, and that resource distribution goes into governance. How we give people water, how we give people road, how we give people education, how we give people food. That is what the resource distribution is talking about. So when we don't distribute it equally, then there will be challenges, and that leadership that we are talking about, it becomes a leadership that lacks foresight.
All right, thank you so much. Time is no longer on our side. It's on this note we draw the curtain on today's The Big Issue. We'll be looking at Nigeria 64. Has anything changed so far? And I had the pleasure of having people in the to join us. Leadership analyst Bodegba Debo, all the way from Qatar, and my studio guest Olamileko Adefolari. Thank you so much once again.
Thanks for
well, viewers, until we come your way again, same time, same station, for another fresh edition of the program. Here's Winifred Gwebo, thanking you for joining us.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.